Welcome to Stories Junction. Let's begin today's story. My name is Adrian, and I've always believed that love is nothing without honesty. It's the foundation, the one thing that keeps everything else from crumbling. But I learned the hard way that even the strongest foundations can crack. I was engaged to a woman named Lila, someone I thought I knew inside and out. We'd spent years building a life together, dreaming of a future that felt so certain, until I discovered she was hiding something that shattered everything. What happened next changed me forever, and I'm going to share that story with you. It's not just about heartbreak. It's about realizing how little you can know someone, even when you think you've seen their soul. Let's start from the beginning, and trust me, you'll want to hear how this unfolds. I met Lila at a gallery opening in Seattle, a city alive with rain-soaked streets and the hum of creativity. A mutual friend had invited us both, and what started as small talk about abstract paintings turned into a 3-hour conversation about life, dreams, and everything in between. She had this way of listening like every word you said mattered, her hazel eyes locked on yours. We exchanged numbers, and what began as casual texts soon became coffee dates, then long walks along the waterfront, and eventually, a relationship that felt like it was always meant to be. Our connection grew naturally, never forced. We didn't leap into anything, but we didn't drag our feet either. Over 3 years, we built something that felt unshakable. Lila would spend most weekends at my apartment in Capitol Hill, her bag slung over her shoulder as she arrived on Friday evenings, ready to settle in until Sunday. My place was bigger, with a view of the city skyline, and it just made sense for her to come to me. Her apartment in Fremont was cozy but cramped, and while I visited her there occasionally, we both preferred the space and comfort of my place. We never pushed for her to move in full time. It felt like we had time, and what we had worked perfectly. Lila was an open book, or so I thought. From the start, she shared everything: her past relationships, her struggles, her family's quirks. She told me about a lifelong friend, Marcus, who she described as the brother she never had. She was clear, there was nothing romantic between them, just a bond forged in childhood. I had no reason to doubt her. She laid her life bare, and that kind of transparency made me trust her completely. Why wouldn't I? When someone tells you everything, you assume it's the truth. By our 3rd year, I proposed. She said yes, her smile brighter than the Seattle sun breaking through the clouds. We started planning where we'd honeymoon, maybe Iceland or Japan, what kind of house we'd buy, how we'd balance our careers. I was all in emotionally and financially, saving for a future I was certain we both wanted. Everything seemed aligned, like we were on the same page, writing the same story. But I was about to learn that even the most beautiful stories can hide ugly truths. One rainy Friday, Lila showed up at my apartment as usual, her weekend bag dripping from the downpour outside. She shook off her umbrella, flashed that familiar smile, and we settled in for dinner, takeout from our favorite Thai place. Over pad Thai, she mentioned she'd need to leave early the next day to visit her parents in Tacoma for some family matter. She didn't elaborate, and I didn't press. Lila's family was private, and I respected that. She'd never given me a reason to question her, so I nodded and said, "No problem. Just let me know when you're back." After dinner, we curled up on the couch for a movie, a ritual we'd perfected over the years. Halfway through, Lila's head rested on my shoulder, her breathing soft and steady. She'd fallen asleep, as she often did when work left her drained. I didn't mind. It was endearing, her vulnerability in those moments. I draped an arm around her and let the movie play on. But then her phone, resting on the coffee table, lit up. No sound, just a silent glow. Once, twice, then again. I ignored it first, assuming it was her friend's group chat, always buzzing with memes or plans. But when the credits rolled and I shifted to wake her, my eyes caught the screen. The notification wasn't from a group chat. It was a name, Marcus, and the preview of the message wasn't the kind of thing a brother sends. We'd shared our phone passwords early in our relationship, a mutual gesture of trust. I never used hers, and she never used mine, but the code was there if we needed it. Something in my gut twisted, and without thinking too hard, I picked up her phone and entered the code. What I saw hit me like a wave. The The messages weren't casual. They were warm, flirty, laced with heart emojis and private jokes. Worse, there were plans. One message from Marcus read, "So excited for tomorrow. It's been too long." Lila's reply, a winking emoji followed by, "Told him I'm at my parents'. We're all set." That message was sent an hour ago, while we were eating dinner, laughing over nothing. My heart sank and my hands went cold. I scrolled further, each word tightening the knot in my chest. She was planning to meet Marcus tomorrow, using her family visit as a cover. I didn't wake her. I couldn't. She slept peacefully, her head still on my shoulder, while I sat frozen, staring at the woman I thought I'd marry. My mind raced. Was this new? Had been going on for weeks, months, years? Was I just the safe choice, the guy she settled for while keeping someone else on the side? The question that burned hottest was the simplest. Why? Why lie to me when she knew how much I trusted her? I set the phone down and let the silence swallow me. The movie's end credits looped on the screen, but I barely noticed. All I could think was, how did I miss this? And what happens next? I sat there in the dark, the glow of the TV casting shadows across the room. Lila, still asleep on my shoulder. Her phone, now back on the coffee table, felt like a ticking bomb. My mind was a storm of questions, each one sharper than the last. How long had she been lying? Was Marcus always more than a friend, or was this new? And the worst one, did she ever really love me the way I loved her? I didn't wake her. Not yet. I needed to think, to figure out what to do with the betrayal burning in my chest. The Seattle rain tapped against the windows, a steady rhythm that matched the pounding in my head. This is where the story gets messy, eh? And trust me, you'll want to know what happened next. The next morning, Lila stirred beside me on the couch. We'd fallen asleep there, something we did sometimes when we were too comfortable to move. For a moment, everything felt normal. Her sleepy smile, the way she stretched and mumbled about needing coffee. She leaned over and kissed my cheek, her lips soft and familiar. It was a routine we'd done 100 times, but this time, it felt like a lie. She got up, shuffled to the bathroom to brush her teeth, and started packing her bag, tossing in clothes she kept at my place. As she moved around the apartment, she chatted about how much she'd miss me, how she wished she didn't have to cut the weekend short for her parents' family stuff in Tacoma. Her words were light, effortless, like she'd rehearsed them. I listened, but my silence was heavy. Every sentence she spoke felt like another layer of deception piling up. I didn't say much, just nodded or gave one-word answers. She didn't seem to notice at first, too caught up in her routine. But then she paused, standing by the kitchen counter, her bag half-packed. She looked at me, really looked, and her brow furrowed. "Hey, Adrian, you okay?" she asked, her voice soft but curious. I shrugged, using my go-to-move when I didn't want to talk, yet just tired. She laughed a little too brightly and walked over to nudge my arm. "What? You're already moping because I'm leaving?" She was teasing, trying to lighten the mood, but it only made the knot in my stomach tighten. I forced a half-smile, but inside I was screaming. How could she act so normal, knowing she was about to sneak off to meet Marcus? How could she look me in the eye and play this part so well? In that moment, I realized how easy it must have been for her to lie all this time. And I wondered, how many other lies had I swallowed? She finished packing, zipping her bag with a quick tug. I followed her to the door, just like always. It was our ritual. I'd open the door, she'd turn back for a quick hug or kiss, and she'd be off with a promise to text when she got to her destination. But this time, as she stepped toward the threshold, I couldn't let it play out like it always did. My heart was pounding, and the words came before I could stop them. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "Have fun on your date." The air changed in an instant. Lila froze, her hand still on the strap of her bag. Her face was a mix of shock and confusion, like she was trying to process what I'd just said. "What?" she stammered, her voice cracking. "What are you talking about, Adrian?" Her eyes searched mine, but I could see the panic creeping in, the way her fingers tightened around the strap. I didn't let her off the hook. I raised a hand, calm but firm, and said, "Don't. I saw the messages. You're not going to your parents. You're meeting Marcus." Her mouth opened, then closed, like she was grasping for a response, but couldn't find one. For the first time since I'd known her, Lila looked small, caught, like a kid who'd been found out. I didn't wait for her to spin a story. I stepped back and closed the door, the click of the lock louder than it had ever been. The second the door shut, the silence was deafening. Then came the knocking, frantic, insistent. "Adrian, please." Her voice was muffled but desperate. "Open the door. Let me explain." The knocks turned into bangs, and I heard her voice break, sobs mixing with her words. "It's not what you think. Just talk to me." My phone started buzzing, texts lighting up the screen one after another. I didn't need to look to know it was her, but I glanced anyway. "Please, Adrian, open the door. I swear it's not what it looks like. I'm not going anymore. Just let me talk to you." I stood there, a few feet from the door, listening to her plead. Part of me wanted to open it, to hear her out, to believe there was some explanation that could make this okay. But the other part, the part that had read those messages, seen the winking emoji, the "we're all set," knew better. If it was nothing, why lie? Why hide it? Why plan a secret meetup with another man while sitting across from me at dinner? I didn't move. I let her knock, let her cry, let her text pile up. Hours later, yes, hours, she finally left. The sound of her footsteps fading down the hall felt final, but I knew this wasn't over. The days that followed were a blur. Lila didn't stop trying to reach me. Every morning, my phone was flooded with texts. They weren't polished or clever, just raw and pleading. "I messed up. I know I did. Please let me explain." Sometimes it was just, "I miss you." One night, at 2 a.m., she sent, "I don't deserve you, but I can't lose you. Tell me what to do." I didn't respond. I didn't block her either, though I probably should have. The previews on my lock screen were enough to keep the wound fresh. Every time I saw her name, I saw those messages to Marcus, and the anger mixed with something worse, doubt. Had our entire relationship been a lie? Was I just the guy she settled for while she kept Marcus in the wings? I kept asking myself why she did it. Was I not enough? Had I missed signs? Lila had always been so open, so honest, or so I thought. Maybe that was the trick. Maybe she told me just enough truth to make the lies invisible. I replayed our years together, searching for cracks I hadn't noticed. The late-night calls she'd step out to take, saying it was her mom. The weekends she'd cut short for vague reasons. Were those lies too? Or was I paranoid, turning every memory into a question mark? The worst part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the way it made me doubt everything. Every laugh, every "I love you," every plan we'd made. Were they real, or was I just a placeholder in her story? I didn't know what to believe anymore, and that uncertainty was eating me alive. But the real test was coming, and it would force me to decide whether I could ever trust her again, or if I even wanted to try. The days after I closed the door on Lila felt like wading through fog. Seattle's gray skies mirrored the haze in my mind. Each morning starting with a fresh wave of her texts. Each one a plea for forgiveness or a chance to talk. I didn't respond, but I didn't block her either. Her words, "I messed up, Adrian. I'm so sorry. Please just hear me out," stacked up on my phone, a constant reminder of the betrayal I couldn't shake. I kept asking myself, how do you move on when the person you trusted most turns out to be a stranger? I wasn't ready to face her, but I knew I couldn't avoid her forever. What happened next tested everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and second chances. Stick with me, because this part of the story changes everything. Life went on, or at least it tried to. I went to work, met friends for drinks, and kept up appearances, but it was like moving through a script. My apartment, once our sanctuary, felt hollow without Lila's laughter or the smell of her coffee brewing. I'd catch myself staring at the couch where we'd watched movies, or the corner where her weekend bag used to sit, and the ache would hit all over again. Her texts kept coming, relentless but inconsistent, sometimes a single "I miss you," other times a paragraph begging for a chance to explain. I read some, ignored most, but each one pulled me back to that night, to the messages between her and Marcus that I couldn't unsee. I started questioning everything. Had I been too quick to shut her out? Was there an explanation that could make sense of this? But every time I leaned toward giving her a chance, I remembered her lie. Told him I'm my parents. We're all set, and the anger surged back. If it was nothing, why hide it? Why plan a secret weekend with Marcus while I was planning our future? The more I thought about it, the more I wondered if I'd ever really known her. Had she been playing me from the start? Or was this a mistake she genuinely regretted? I didn't have answers, and the not knowing was the worst part. About 2 weeks after that night, I was home on a Saturday, trying to distract myself with a book I wasn't really reading. The rain had stopped for once, and the city felt oddly still. Then came a knock at the door. My stomach dropped. I knew it was her before I even moved. I sat there, frozen, hoping she'd leave, but the knocking persisted, soft at first, then louder, more insistent. Adrian. Her voice came through the door, shaky but determined. I know you're there. Please just talk to me. I'm not leaving until you do. I stayed still, my book forgotten on my lap. Part of me wanted to ignore her, to let her stand there until she gave up. But another part, the part that still loved her, despite everything, couldn't let it go on. After what felt like forever, maybe 10 minutes, I got up and opened the door. There she was, Lila, standing in the hallway, her eyes red and puffy, her hair damp from the drizzle that had started again. She looked smaller than I remembered, like the weight of her own guilt had shrunk her. Adrian, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Thank you for opening the door. She took a step forward, but I didn't move to let her in. Not yet. I just stood there, arms crossed, waiting. She took a deep breath, like she was stealing herself, and started talking. I messed up. I know I did. I lied to you, and I hate myself for it. But it wasn't what you think. Can I please come in and explain? I didn't want to let her in, but I also couldn't keep her standing in the hall, crying where neighbors might hear. I stepped aside, and she walked in, her movements hesitant, like she was afraid to take up space. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, the same one where I'd seen her phone light up with Marcus's messages. The distance between us felt like a canyon. She started talking, her words tumbling out fast, like she was afraid I'd stop her. Marcus and I, it's not what you think. We've been friends since we were kids, like I told you. But a few months ago, he reached out more. He was going through a rough time, and we started talking a lot. It felt familiar, safe. I didn't think it was anything more than catching up, but then it got complicated. He started saying things, flirty things, and I didn't stop it. I should have, but I didn't. I got caught up in the attention, I guess. But I swear it wasn't love. It wasn't anything like what I feel for you. I listened, my face blank, but inside, my emotions were a mess. Anger, hurt, and a flicker of hope I didn't want to admit to. She kept going, her hands twisting in her lap. That weekend, I was going to meet him for coffee, just to talk, to figure out what I was even doing. I lied about going to my parents because I didn't want to hurt you or make you worry. I thought I could handle it on my own, and you'd never have to know. I know how stupid that sounds now. I know I betrayed you. Her voice cracked, and tears spilled down her cheeks, but I didn't move to comfort her. I couldn't. Not yet. When she paused, catching her breath, I asked the question that had been burning in me since that night. If I hadn't seen those messages, would you have told me? Would you have gone to meet him, come back, and kept planning our wedding like nothing happened? She froze. Her eyes met mine, wide and searching, but she didn't answer right away. Her mouth opened, then closed, and she looked down at her hands. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Finally, she whispered, I don't know. I want to say yes, that I would have told you, but I don't know. Her honesty, or maybe her inability to lie anymore, hit harder than any excuse could have. If I hadn't checked her phone, she might have gone, smiled at me the next day, and carried on with our engagement, all while carrying this secret. I leaned back, my chest tight. So you were okay with lying to me, as long as I didn't find out? My voice was calm, but it carried the weight of everything I was feeling. She flinched like the words were a physical blow. No, she said quickly. It wasn't like that. I was confused, Adrian. I didn't know how to handle it. I love you. I want to marry you. I'd do anything to fix this. She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. Not out of anger, but because I didn't know if I could trust her touch anymore. You say you love me, I said, but you're willing to risk everything for someone else. For a coffee? For attention? What am I supposed to do with that, Lila? She didn't have an answer, just more tears, more apologies. I let her talk until her words ran dry, but nothing she said filled the hole her lie had carved out. When she finally stopped, she looked at me, her eyes pleading for something, forgiveness, understanding, a second chance. I didn't know what to give her. I was still processing, still trying to reconcile the Lila I loved with the one who'd lied so easily. I need time, I said finally. I can't do this right now. She nodded, wiping her face, and stood to leave. At the door, she turned back. I'll wait, Adrian, as long as it takes. I love you. Then she was gone, and the apartment was silent again. That conversation didn't fix anything. If anything, it left me more confused. Her explanation made sense on the surface. She was confused. She got caught up. It wasn't love, but it didn't erase the lie. It didn't answer why she needed Marcus's attention when she had mine. And it didn't tell me whether I could ever trust her again. I was stuck, caught between wanting to believe her and knowing that trust, once broken, doesn't mend easily. The weeks after Lila's visit to my apartment were a tug-of-war between my heart and my head. Her words echoed in my mind. I was confused, Adrian. I love you. I'd do anything to fix this, but they couldn't erase the image of her text to Marcus, the lie she'd spun so effortlessly. Seattle's drizzle felt like it was seeping into my bones, mirroring the uncertainty that clouded every thought. I told her I needed time, but time wasn't making things clearer. It was only making the questions louder. Could I forgive her? Could I trust her again? And did I even want to try? What happened next pushed me to confront those questions head on, and it brought a truth I wasn't prepared for. Stay with me, because this part of the story will leave you wondering what's real and what's not. I tried to move forward, throwing myself into work and routine. I met friends at bars in Capitol Hill, laughed at their jokes, and pretended I was fine, but the weight of Lila's betrayal followed me everywhere. My phone still lit up with her messages, though they came less often now, short, raw, like she was running out of ways to say I'm sorry. One night, I got a text that hit differently. I told Marcus I can't talk to him anymore. I want you to know I'm trying. I stared at it for a long time, wondering if it was true or just another attempt to pull me back. I didn't respond, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Was she really cutting him off? Or was this another lie to keep me on the hook? I started noticing changes in myself. I was more guarded, less quick to trust, not just with Lila, but with everyone. Friends would ask how I was doing, and I'd dodge the question with a vague, I'm good. I didn't want to talk about it, didn't want their pity or advice. But the truth was, I was unraveling. I'd lie awake at night, replaying our relationship like a movie, searching for clues I'd missed. The late-night call she took in the other room, the time she'd been too tired to come over, were those signs of Marcus, or was I inventing a narrative to torture myself? The doubt was relentless, and it was changing me into someone I didn't recognize. About a month after her visit, I ran into a mutual friend, Sarah, at a coffee shop in Fremont. We hadn't talked much since the breakup, but she knew something was off. Over lattes, she asked, "How are you holding up, Adrian? I heard about you and Lila." I shrugged, sticking to my usual deflection, but Sarah wasn't having it. "Look," she said, leaning in, "I don't know the whole story, but I saw Lila last week. She's a mess. She told me she screwed up big time and that she's trying to make it right. She mentioned something about Marcus, but she swore it was never what it looked like. I don't know if that helps, but maybe hear her out again." Her words stuck with me, stirring the flicker of hope I'd been trying to smother. Was Lila really a mess, or was she playing the part to gain sympathy? I thanked Sarah and left, but the conversation gnawed at me. That night, I did something I hadn't done before. I looked up Marcus online. I knew it was a bad idea, but I needed to know who this guy was, what he had that I didn't. His social media was sparse, but I found enough. A photographer in his late 20s, based in Portland, with a feed full of moody landscapes and cryptic captions. There were no obvious signs of Lila, but that didn't mean anything. If they were sneaking around, they'd be careful, right? The next day, I got a voicemail from Lila. I hadn't answered her call since the breakup, but hearing her voice caught me off guard. "Adrian, I know you don't want to talk, and I don't blame you, but I need to tell you something. I saw Marcus last week." "Not like that," she added quickly. "I met him to end things for good, to tell him we can't be friends anymore. I should have done it sooner, and I'm sorry. I needed you to know I'm trying to fix this." I love you. I'll keep trying until you tell me to stop. The message ended, and I sat there, phone in hand, my heart racing. She sounded sincere, but I believed her sincerity before. I didn't call her back, but her voicemail cracked something open in me. I started wondering if I'd been too harsh, too quick to shut her out. Maybe she was telling the truth. Maybe it was just a stupid mistake, not a full-blown affair. But then I'd remember her silence when I asked if she'd have told me, and the doubt would creep back. I was stuck in a loop, torn between wanting to believe in the Lila I loved and fearing she didn't exist anymore. A few days later, I was at home when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It read, "Hey, this is Marcus. I got your number from Lila's phone a while back. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need to clear something up. Can we talk?" My blood ran cold. Marcus, the guy she'd lied about, the one she'd planned to meet behind my back, was reaching out. Why? To apologize? To gloat? To explain? I didn't know what to make of it, but every instinct told me to ignore it. Yet, part of me was curious. Maybe he held the key to understanding what had happened. I didn't respond right away. I sat on my couch, staring at the message, the Seattle skyline dim through the window. My mind raced with possibilities. What could Marcus possibly say that would change anything? Was this a trap, or was it a chance to finally get answers? I typed out a reply, then deleted it. Typed another, deleted that too. Finally, I sent, "What do you want?" His response came almost instantly, "Just to talk. I owe you that. Name a place, and I'll come to Seattle." No pressure. I didn't know what to do. Meeting Marcus felt like opening a door I might not be able to close. But ignoring him meant living with the same questions that had been haunting me for weeks. I thought about Lila, about her tears, her apologies, her claim that she'd cut him off. Was Marcus's outreach proof she was telling the truth, or was there more to this story I hadn't uncovered? I was standing at a crossroads, and whatever I chose next would change everything. Marcus's text stared back at me, a digital ultimatum that felt like it could unravel everything. Just to talk. I owe you that. The words looped in my mind as I sat on my couch, the Seattle skyline fading into dusk outside. Meeting him meant facing the man who'd been a shadow in my relationship with Lila, but ignoring him meant living with the questions that had been eating me alive. Could he tell me something that would make sense of her lies? Or would he only confirm my worst fears? I was at a breaking point, and what happened next forced me to decide what I wanted, not just with Lila, but with myself. This is the end of the story, and it's where everything comes into focus. You want to see how it all turns out? I wrestled with Marcus's request for days. Part of me wanted to delete his message and move on, to bury the whole mess and start over. But another part, the part that still loved Lila, despite everything, needed answers. I finally texted him back, agreeing to meet at a quiet cafe in Ballard, a neutral spot far enough from my apartment to feel like I could breathe. I didn't tell Lila. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about me finding some kind of truth. The cafe was busy but not crowded. The hum of conversation and clinking mugs a backdrop to my nerves. Marcus walked in right on time, easy to spot from his photos. A lanky guy with dark hair and a cautious expression. He spotted me, gave a small nod, and sat down across from me. "Thanks for meeting me, Adrian," he said, his voice steady but careful. "I know this is weird. Just say what you came to say," I replied, keeping my tone even. "I wasn't here to make friends." He nodded, leaning forward slightly. "Lila told me what happened, how you found out about her texts. I want to be clear, nothing physical ever happened between us. I know that doesn't fix everything, but it's the truth. We've been friends since we were kids, and yeah, I lean on her too much lately. I was going through a breakup, and she was there to listen. Things got flirty, I guess. I crossed a line, and I shouldn't have, but she never let it go further than words. She told me she loved you, that she was engaged. I pushed anyway, and that was on me. I listened, my jaw tight. His words matched Lila's story, but they didn't erase the sting of her secrecy. So why the secret meetup? I asked. Why did she lie to me about going to her parents? Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. That was my idea. I told her I needed to see her to talk in person. She didn't want to tell you because she thought it'd upset you, and she figured she could handle it without you ever knowing. It was stupid, and I'm sorry. She shut it down last week, told me we're done as friends. She meant it, too. She's been a wreck, Adrian. She loves you. I know I'm the last person you want to hear this from, but she's trying to make it right. I sat back, processing. His story lined up with hers, but it didn't answer everything. If she loved me, why didn't she just tell me? Why hide it at all? My voice was sharper than I intended, but I didn't care. Marcus didn't flinch. She was scared, he said simply. Scared of losing you. Scared of messing up what you had. She thought she could fix it herself. I know that doesn't make it okay, but that's why. We talked for a while longer, but the core of it was clear. Marcus had overstepped. Lila had let it happen, and her lie was born out of fear, not malice. It wasn't an affair, but it was a betrayal all the same. When he left, I felt a strange mix of relief and frustration. He wasn't the villain I'd imagined, but his words didn't magically fix the trust Lila had broken. I didn't reach out to Lila right away. I needed to sit with what Marcus had said to figure out what it meant for me. A few days later, I saw her name on my phone again, a single text. I know you met Marcus. Thank you for hearing him out. I'm here when you're ready. I stared at it, wondering how she knew, then realized Marcus must have told her. For once, she wasn't pushing, just waiting. It was different, and it made me pause. I spent the next week thinking, not just about Lila, but about what I wanted. I still loved her. I couldn't deny that. But love wasn't enough if trust was gone. I thought about our years together, the good moments that had felt so real, her laugh when we got caught in a downpour, the way she planned our future with such certainty. But I also thought about the lie, the way she'd looked at me that morning, knowing she was hiding something. Could I build a life with someone who'd made that choice? One evening, I asked Lila to meet me at the waterfront, where we'd had some of our best moments. She showed up, her face a mix of hope and fear. We walked in silence for a bit, the sound of waves filling the space between us. Finally, I stopped and faced her. I met Marcus, I said. He told me his side. It matches yours, but that doesn't make it okay. You lied to me, Lila. You chose to hide something instead of trusting me. That's what hurts the most. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't interrupt. I know, she whispered. I was wrong. I was scared, and I made the worst choice. I'd give anything to take it back. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. I love you, Adrian. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust again. I looked at her, really looked, and saw the woman I'd loved for years, but also the woman who'd lied. I don't know if I can do this, I said honestly. I want to believe you, but every time I think about it, I see those messages. I see you choosing to hide them from me. I don't know if I can get past that. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand, but if there's any chance, I'll wait. I'll keep trying. I didn't have an answer for her. I told her I needed more time, and we parted ways, her silhouette fading against the Seattle skyline. In the weeks that followed, I made a decision, not just about Lila, but about myself. I ended our engagement, not out of anger, but because I realized I couldn't build a future on a foundation that felt cracked. I told her in a letter, because I needed to say it clearly, without her tears swaying me. I wrote that I loved her, but love wasn't enough without trust, and I wasn't sure I could rebuild it. I asked her not to contact me anymore, to let us both move on. Lila respected my request. The text stopped, and the silence was both painful and freeing. I started focusing on myself. New hobbies, new goals, new ways to fill the space she'd left. But the scars remained. Betrayal doesn't just break trust, it rewrites your memories, makes you question what was ever real. I still catch myself wondering about the moments we shared, whether her love was genuine or if I was just a safe harbor while she chased something else. I don't have all the answers, and maybe I never will. But I know one thing. I deserve honesty, and I won't settle for less. This experience changed me, made me more cautious, but it also taught me that love isn't just about feelings. It's about choices. Lila made hers, and I made mine. Now, I'm curious about you. What would you have done in my place? Could you forgive a lie like that? Or would you walk away too? Share your thoughts, because someone out there might be facing the same choice, and your perspective could light their way.